Hey, everybody. We're going to actually be doing something a little bit different today on the podcast. We're going to be introducing another podcast. So stick around.
No checklist completed is going to save you. No bucket list is going to save you. No amount of blood, sweat, and tears that you've poured out in your life is going to save you. No amount of cash or worldly possessions is going to save you. You can't take it with you. You'll be dead. Buddha can't save you. Gandhi can't enlighten you. The Pope can't absolve your sins. The saints can't pray you into eternal life. Muhammad can't fix you. Allah isn't able. No president, no legislation, no Supreme Court justice, no state or nation or leader or celebrity. No one can save you because there is salvation in no one else.
Okay. So, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bearded Bible Thinker podcast. Today, a little bit different. I get to introduce someone to you. Somebody I've actually talked about before. And, if you're from our church or our neck of the woods, you know who this is. Who is this?
Donna.
Donna. Who's Donna?
I am Rob's wife.
This is my girlfriend for life.
Yep. And
Yeah.
we've been married for 16 years since this past August.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
No, it's been fun.
It's been perfect every day. Every day. At least from me to her. She's been perfect.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah, no.
No.
But it's been a fun 16 years.
I just entered into dangerous territory.
Yeah.
So this is my bride, and the reason we're that I have her on today. Usually I don't have any guests or anything, so this is I did something with Connect Medical Clinic a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, this is pretty abnormal. So we're gonna just kind of jump right into it. You have kind of an announcement, right?
Yes, I want to start a podcast. It's going to be called Herbie Rae.
Okay, stop right there. Why is it called Herbie Rae?
When I was barely walking, I saw a very old McDonald's commercial. I was like 1.5. And this McDonald's commercial, there was some cowboy in cowboy boots. And so I loved this commercial when I was little. So I went and got some cowboy boots and walked in them, just bare diaper and cowboy boots, and my parents got a picture of me.
Solid wardrobe.
And so this cowboy's name was Herbie, and so ever since then I've been called Herbie. And
so you were dressed up as a cowboy named Herbie from a McDonald's commercial.
Yes.
And then they called you Herbie.
And they called me Herbie ever since. Even, in fact, my sister Wanda still calls me Herbie. And
she actually calls you Herb sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
she
like,
calls me Herb sometimes too. But what's funny is I react to that probably quicker than if they were to actually say my name. So, yeah. And Ray is just my middle name. So it's my nickname and middle name. So, yeah.
So Herbie Rae. All right. So the podcast. What makes you want to do a podcast in the first place?
Okay, so there's a ton of podcasts going around. It's kind of become the radio. Like we went from radio to TV, and now we're kind of going back to radio. But I love it because if I'm like just not wanting to do the dishes one day, I just put on a podcast and I'm a little more motivated. So, but it's harder to find Reformed Christian women podcasts. And some of them are like inner city or dealing with
Reformed. Hey, listen, all Arminians, cover your ears. Go ahead.
Or they'll be set up that the culture and the climate is like the deserts of Texas. So I want to do a podcast that revolves around North Dakotan culture. Some of the challenges that we face here that Texans don't. Like you're stuck in your house for 2 weeks straight because you're either snowed in or it's -40. So, like Texans they don't understand. So
She has a Texas problem, I think.
okay, Florida. So, so I just want to have something that is relatable to Western North Dakota culture. I was born and raised here in wow. I
Watch
almost
it.
said, yeah, I was
Watch it.
born and raised here in North Dakota.
Okay, for context, she lived in California
Yes.
for a time.
Yes.
That was my fault.
Yeah, in the desert. So I get that the struggle is real when it comes to winters. Yeah, and I think there are things that that would be good here in North Dakota to hear.
So North Dakota culture.
Yeah.
And from a reformed perspective is what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Like
Yep.
life as a what? Like what are some of the things that kind of interest you that you because I know you've talked to me about like several things that you'd like to talk about or like possible subjects to cover, or things to yip or yap about on a podcast. So like what's the flavor of your reformed North Dakota culture kind of thing, right? What does that mean?
Okay, so reformed, first of all, just means going back to the Bible with, like you go to the Bible first instead of your culture. So the things we deal with even in America, there are a lot of things that come in to the Christian home, Christian marriage, Christian church, which is a church, but, that are based from culture. And so the things that I would like to do is take things from a biblical standpoint and talk about like homemaking. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I used to say just a stay-at-home mom, but like it's a big job, and it is a job.
And it's sort of important.
And
right?
it is very important. And so not only do I stay at home, but I homeschool my two boys, which one is just entering into high school and the other into junior high. So that's also me getting away by doing this podcast.
It's an outlet, right?
Outlet with no boys screaming in the back. So I also think that I mean, marriage, that comes from the Bible and the definition of a marriage. Even the fact that I'm saying I'm a woman comes from the Bible and not from culture. So those are some of the things that I want to talk about. Homeschooling from a Christian standpoint, homemaking, even things in like idleness and laziness and ways
Women don't ever deal with those things, right?
Yeah, just keep saying that. Even contentment, like, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stuff, right, that and the things that you just listed, right? But even other stuff that you talked about with me behind the scenes over the past few weeks as you've been talking about it, that I'm actually excited about this for you, because I know even many of the conversations that you might have even in our own church with women. We have a lot of young women in our church who are young moms who have littles. We have like 115 pregnant women right now. At least that's okay. I think it's 6, but we have there are a lot of youngsters in the church, meaning there are a lot of moms in the church who are working through things and trying to figure this thing out, and growing up is the wrong way to put it, but like doing this mom thing, learning motherhood and being a wife and all of those things. They tend to be learning this when surrounded by a culture that is like the opposite of all that it needs to be about, right?
Right.
So I think that this is really valid and necessary, and I know that there are like a cajillion podcasts out there Um, and probably if people search around, they're gonna find other podcasts that are similar,
Right.
or
Mm-hmm.
uh, 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 whatever that might be. But I think that it's going to be helpful, particularly for the young women in our culture here, in our neck of the woods. As a for instance, North Dakota, right, is a bit of a different animal,
Mm-hmm.
um, in that I was just at pastor's prayer. As we're recording this, it's a Wednesday, and so every Wednesday I go spend some time in prayer with some other pastors in town, and um, I just had mentioned to them in toward the end of our time together this morning how part of the problem with our North Dakota culture sometimes is that culturally, when it comes to like the transgenderism or gender theory in general and critical race theory and the things that are sort of plaguing the church world right now. Um, those kinds of things hit North Dakota long after they've hit places like New York and Miami and LA and Seattle and all these places you hear about.
Yeah.
To the average North Dakotan, this is just like news, right? And I think that's one of the problems, because we tend to just go, oh, those people,
Mm-hmm.
and assume that, like, well, that's not going to happen here, which is the
Right.
very reason that it ends up happening here,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So I think this is going to be helpful for something that from the perspective of a woman that lives here and does ministry here,
Mm-hmm.
does motherhood here, is a pastor's wife, which has its own kind of weird challenges, I'm sure, at times for you.
Yep.
Um, but I'm excited for you. I think that this is going to be helpful.
And, going back to, the whole, when my boys were little, like we had books. We didn't have something that you could just listen to as you're doing dishes. Like you had
Oh, sure.
to stop and read. And so when you're in the stage of having youngsters crawling on you, crying, puking, pooping, I mean, the whole thing, you don't really have a whole lot of time to get into. I mean, you should be in the word regardless, but um you don't have that cheerleader or coach cheering you on, like showing you how motherhood looks practically. And podcasts, I think, really are a huge tool in just being able to live out the Christian life and walk, and a way to kind of stir and spur each other on.
Hmm. Yeah, and to, I mean, obviously, in no way is it so scripture is sufficient, obviously,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not as if we need um, uh, it's not as if we actually need podcasts or
Right.
others speaking into our ears, because we
Or
have the
books.
scriptures.
Yeah.
But I think throughout the scriptures, right, God makes it abundantly clear that we need one another,
Right.
right? And
Titus.
yeah,
Older women teaching younger women.
exactly right.
Yep.
And um, which you're far from being an older woman, baby.
That's why I want guests on
Yeah.
my podcast,
Um,
because I don't know everything.
but I think that it's going to be a helpful thing, because obviously, like I said, we're made as people to be with other people, and God never had in mind. I mean, even the Trinity,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's community even within God Himself, and within the Godhead. Three persons in perfect unity, one being. So even God Himself is a demonstration of relationship, and certainly His relationship with His image bearers is another obvious example. Um, but the very I like to point out the very first thing that He said that wasn't good in His creation is that Adam was alone. So there's like a desperate need within us for one another. And I forget how he worded it exactly. This isn't going to be the right quote verbatim, but Martin Luther said something like, if let every man study the scriptures on his own, and he'll go to hell in his own way. And he was just kind of alluding to the fact that like we really do need one another, and the hearing the perspective and ideas and exegesis from someone else, or there are blind spots that we'll have if we study, if we do this life by ourselves. We're going to be missing stuff. We're going to be missing things that otherwise we wouldn't if we had one another. And so I think that's probably the role that podcasts, among other things, obviously, but one of the things that they help with. And so you're not going to be doing this on video.
No,
correct?
It's just going to be audio. That way, if I do have a guest on, they can come and not, if they're shy of a camera, they don't have to be in front of a camera, and they can just talk and give their perspective on things. And I also think
like it might have something to do though with like, so this is maybe the first moment where you're going to hear something about the subject matter, right? Doing this audio only will also allow
me to be in pajamas.
boom.
That's 16 years of marriage there. He already knows. And that's another thing that I want in my podcast is I want there to be fun stories and experiences and just have fun with it. And I also want to go around the community here in Dickinson, New England, Western North Dakota to an extent, which is South Hart probably. But like, if there are businesses around town, I want to give shout outs and just help our community too. Because I think that is important because there's a lot of good businesses out there that don't have, like, people just don't know about them. And I mean, if this is a way of getting word out and supporting other homeschool moms or mom and pop stores, I think that would be good. Or tips on how to do things at home, like how to make a good nifla soup or fleisch kikla, or again, North Dakota born, but and raised. So yeah.
Nifla soup. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. I know you already have some people in mind to have on your podcast. You already have some subject matter that you've thought up and that you'll begin things with and get the snowballs to start rolling down the hill, to use North Dakota terminology that people will understand. And so when is this going to happen?
I'm thinking it's probably going to happen the beginning of October.
Beginning of October. Okay.
Yep. That way I can get my first person to say yes and get her, questions. And
because if you ask and people say no, we'll do church discipline, right? I mean, no, I'm joking.
No.
That's not going to happen. It's just a joke. So that's going to come up before we know it. We're already into September.
Yep.
Why won't you be doing it September 19th through the 24th?
Because we will be in Atlanta, Georgia at the G3 conference with a lot of great speakers.
Yeah,
we're excited
about that. It's going to be great.
And we're going to be kid-free.
Well, What else? Anything else?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think
I
so.
I do plan on doing something that if people have questions, they
Oh,
could,
yeah.
I don't know, email or text me
Email or
or
reach out to you on Facebook. You
yeah,
check Facebook a
something
lot
like
and
that.
message you and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. And I know, like, if you're on Spotify, I'm pretty sure that people can comment and that sort of
Oh,
thing
okay.
too, or
Mm-hmm.
ask questions, or I don't know how that works because nobody cares about my stuff. Um, yeah, I think that this is going to be great. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Yeah.
Herbie Rae, beginning of October. Do you know what day of the week this is going to start coming out?
Probably Wednesdays,
Wednesdays.
I
All right.
think. Maybe.
Okay. Herbie Rae Podcast starting in October on Wednesdays, I think. Maybe.